Hello and welcome back. And in today's module, we'll be discussing about data entry as a complete beginner. We'll also be talking about the essentials of using a table. What are cell ranges? We'll also be looking at some arithmetic operators as well you can perform in Excel. We'll be looking at sorting and filtering, data validations, conditional formatting, and how that can help you make meaningful insights in your reports, and as well as absolute and relative referencing. Now let's get into it. So as a complete beginner, the first thing you need to obviously do if you're trying to put in your data, it's very easy. All you just need to understand that these are called columns and these are also called rows. So this is column A, row 1, column B, row 1. All right. So now if I'd want to input a name, so I'm just going to type in a name. Let's say name, or let me first of all put a serial number. And I'm just going to say name. All right. So there's something I'm also going to show you here. Let's say I want to write 5 names, right? So instead of having to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, imagine if you've got like hundreds of names. That would take eternity to obviously get to fill up, quickly. So there's a faster way you can do it. It's a very smart way Excel gets to know what you're trying to say. So if I say 1 and I put in a second 1, so all you just need is just a minimum of 2 numbers, and Excel would understand exactly what you're trying to do. So it follows a sequence of what you've done in the 2 previous cells. So I can then do this and then drag down, left click and drag down, and it would auto fill that for me 1 to 5 without having to obviously do that myself. All right, the next thing obviously, you can just put in name. So it's John, Peter, Joy, Grace, and messaging. So now there's something I'm also going to show you here as well. Let's say, for example, I want to obviously put a name. Maybe this is a sequential and it has to follow, maybe based on the first thing attendance, first thing first come attendance. All right, so John came in first, and let's say Peter came in next. And let's say, for example, there is a name that I omitted. All right, and maybe the name is let's say Joe, for example. Now all you can do is, and Joe came before Joy, right? All you can do is, don't panic, just click on this. It will select the whole row, right click, then you come down here to insert, click on insert, and then you can now put in Joe. And then you can either just put in the 3 here, or you can just, it's either you put in the 3 there, but remember when you put a 3, it would have 2 duplicate numbers, serial numbers, which is 3, 3, and that would obviously cause an issue. So what you can then do, I like to do is, once you just put in the name first, highlight the very first 2 as well, and then take it down, and Excel would fix that for you. You can see it's taking right on the number sequentials that it should follow. Now let's say, for example, now we've learned on how to insert rows. Let's say I want to also delete the row. Maybe I want to delete James, for example. I don't need James there. Maybe, for example, James never attended on the register, and I might have mistakenly imputed that. There's no worries for that. All you need to do is just click on this. It will highlight the whole row. You can see that the whole row there is being highlighted. Then you right click and then you see delete. It will take off that row completely. The next thing you need to do is, let's say, for example, you'd also want to impute, a first name, and you also want to impute a last name as well. What you can then do is, you want to put the first name before the last name. Let's assume that this is last name. So I'm just going to say last name. All right. And then I want to impute a first name before it. All what you just do is highlight the column itself, right click, and then insert. It would insert a new column for you, and then you can then put in your new column header, and then I'm just going to call it first name. Now you can see that my name is not totally showing here. Don't worry, all you need to do is just put in your cursor here. So you can see that, if you can see, the cursor has a different plus sign here, and then when it comes here, it takes a different shape itself. So when it takes this friendship, all you need to do is in between B and C, the middle line there, just put it there and then left click. You can just click it twice and it should expand properly. And then you can type in the name. Let's say Kim John. Okay, so we will just be taking this off because we do not need it. And I'm just going to clean off this as well. This is just, for those who have no idea on how to use Excel. So that's why I'm, and the benefit of that, that's why I'm actually going through this to make them feel comfortable before we start getting into much deeper things in this course. Now, another thing we're also going to be looking at is tables. Now, tables make your work more organized. And it's very easy as well for you to sort and filter, which we'll be discussing much later in this module. Now, for you to do that, all you then do is you highlight the cell you want to put on a table. And for you to highlight, just left click, you drag, and then down. So that's the first way I'm going to teach you. Is the very easy way. But you see, there is a downside to this. If you imagine you've got like hundreds of rows and you want to highlight them, having to drag this, you could omit some, or it could be very tiring. So there is a faster way to do this, but this is just one step. The second step is this: click on the first cell you want to highlight, click on Control. Now, if you look on your keyboard, there is a shift or an arrow up facing button. Click on that as well, and then click on the right arrow. Now you can position the right arrow. So you see, once I click on the right arrow, it would move. Remember, my shift and my control are still down, and all I just need to obviously just click on my right arrow. So once I click on my right arrow, what it does is it would highlight to the last place that the data is there. There is, and it would highlight it. And if I click down as well, with my shift and my control still holding it, it highlights to wherever the data also stop. So it's a very faster way to do it. And once you're done, just release your hands. And then once you release your hand, do not click out. If not, if you click out, you see it takes it off. So I'm just going to go back again. Control, shift, right, and down. Now, there is a shortcut to be able to convert this to tables. So I would like to do the shortcuts. It makes life much easier. So what you then need to do is, once you've got this highlighted, Control T, and it would ask you, if you would like to create your table. Yes, I'd like to create my table. And then you just say, okay. It asks you, are my tables, does my table has headers? If you untick this, it would read this as a value, but we actually have a header, because this would denote that these are serial number and then these are names. So we're going to say, yes, my table has got headers. So I'm going to click on that. Always remember to click on this and then say, okay. Now you can see that once you then do this, it organizes this in a very nice and clean way. And you can obviously do everything I initially said: insert column, delete column, and things like that. It just makes everything much organized for you as well. Now, there's something that we're also going to talk about, which is called cell ranges. Now, cell ranges are just basically, so this is a cell range. So when you highlight from A, so it's basically a cell range could be from A2 to A6. That's my cell range. All right. Or you could either it goes vertical, or you could either go horizontal. So this could also be a cell range. This can also be a cell range, and even the whole data as well can also be a cell range. So a cell range is, a portion that you're looking at, a portion of data basically that you're actually looking at. So it's just nice to obviously have an understanding of this. We would be playing, using cell ranges when we are doing things like VLOOKUPs and the rest of them. But I just want you to understand what a range is basically. Okay. So we would be then moving on to operations and how to use operations in Excel. So we'll be moving over to this operation files. And remember, we've also got the class file for practice file, which you would also find, at the resource area. I would be letting you know, obviously, where you can actually find this for you to download and practice. So do not worry. All you just need to do at the moment, you just follow and understand what I'm doing. And if you've got questions, let me know, and I will also get back to you on that, on the comments. Or you could obviously send me an email and I would respond back to you. Okay, so now we've got a operation sheet tab, right? Now we're going to use this data to perform so many different things. And we'll first begin with sum. Let's say, I want to add all of this. So instead of having to add, so I'm going to teach you two different ways. And you see, that's where the range also comes in. So we could either use a sum range to add all this unit price together. Maybe I want to maybe just add everything all together and all that. Or maybe let's use unit in stock. That would make more sense, right? So let's say I want to know the items, the number of items that are maybe in my warehouse, for example, right? And I want to, basically know if we need to order more things. I want to know everything total that is there. So you can see a product name called chai has got 39 in stock, right? Now, there are 3 ways I'm going to show you on how to add things. So the very fast and easy way to do it, but it's never really like the absolute best if you've got a large data set. So you can either highlight on the cell and just keep highlighting it on your left click and just drag down. And then you can see it sums it up for you here as 331. I hope you can see it down here at the footer, sum 331. So that's what, if you've got a very short data, it's a very fast way to obviously get an insight of a sum if you'd want to do that. But obviously it's limited to doing a lot of operations per se. Now, the second way I'm also going to teach you on how to do that is, let's say I'm going to say sum. All right, and these are called functions. So we're going to be making use of functions. Okay, so I'm going to say this is going to be sum, and okay, let me just drag this closer. Well, let me just put the sum here so it's not too far away from us. You can put it anywhere. So now I want to know the sum of everything. Now the second process I'm going to teach you is this. So now this is what we call a sum function. All you now need to do is click on an equal sign, SUM, it comes up. All right, open your brackets, and you can see it tries to tell you that what you need to do. So that means you need to sum numbers together to be able to get what you're looking for. So I could either, I'm going to teach on the range. So the range you could obviously then do is you could say sum, and then I'm going to say range this. So you just drag the range you want to sum. So remember we talked about range previously. So if you see here at the formula bar, what it's saying is I want you to sum D2. Remember, this is column D and this is row 2. So it's summing column D, row 2, which is from 39. And it's also in the same column D, it's summing it up to 11. So the double dots, obviously, it's the range. So it's summing it from D2 to D11. And once you close your brackets and say enter, you should also get the 331. Remember when we did the very quick way, just highlight down, you also saw that it was 331. So that's an easy way to do the sum. Now, I prefer doing this range one, depending obviously on the type of data sets that I'm using. When I talk about data set, these are all data sets. Basically, this is just data, and a set of data altogether. We like to call it data sets, basically. So this is one way. The second way, you can actually sum this as well. So I'm just going to delete this. So it equals sum. Open your brackets, and then you can click on this D2. Basically, instead of having to type the word 39 and all that, you can just click on it. What it does, it's what it's called relative referencing, which we'll be discussing that as well much later in this module. So what relative referencing is basically highlighting whatever cell that is relative to what's been highlighted. So it's highlighting what you are currently on, basically. So it's referencing on what you're currently on. So that I'm referencing relative referencing D2, and I'm saying D2 plus, I want D3 as well. So it's actively referencing on which one you're currently on. That's why I said relative referencing. It focuses on what you're currently actively referencing on. And then plus. So you can see this would obviously take a lot of time. Plus, imagine if you've got like thousands and now you have to be doing this would take a whole lot. So you see, it depends on the data sets. You could either use this one if you've got like maybe just 2 or 3 different this thing, but if not, I would say use the range. But yeah, like I said, everything you do depends on the data set that you're working on. So if I do this as well and then close my bracket, I should also get 331 like the rest as well. So that's how to use sum. So you could also use this as well, both for addition and both for subtraction. Let's say, for example, I want to subtract 5 from 3. Okay, so if I want to subtract 5 from 3, let's use a subtraction function. So I'm just going to say equals. You always have to use an equal sign when using a function. It's not debatable. You always have to do that here in Excel. Okay, so equal sign sum, and let's say you can also say 5 minus 2, close your brackets and enter, you get 3. So I'm not using a relative referencing here. I'm using actual numbers here and all that. So that's why it depends on what you're working with. You know exactly what you want to use. I hope you'll be able to understand what a relative is. We will touch about it much later again and then move into what an absolute obviously is much later in this module. So right now I'm just using actual numbers and I'm not using anything that has to do with relative referencing, because I am not referencing a cell. I'm just working on numbers. Now, if I also want to divide, let's say 6 divided by 2, close my bracket. And I have to make sure that my bracket here is open because I'm not sure I opened it at first. Now, if I don't open an open bracket here, I should get an error. So it will tell you that there is a typo error in your formula. Okay, so I already noticed it, but I just wanted to show you because these things might happen and you wonder, oh, what am I doing wrong and all that. But there are little things that even myself, who has been in this profession as a data analyst working with Excel for a long time now, it happens. Okay, so make sure that is done, and then once I click enter, I should then get 3 as well. So you can use it to multiply as well, divide, and also do your additions. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to be, so we've talked about how to use sum in Excel. We're going to talk about how to use the average function. So these are called functions, okay? Average functions. Now, basically, it's just taking an average of this. Now, the very quicker way to also do it, if you've got a very small data set, you can just highlight this, for example, and you see average here. So the average is just 33.1. But remember I said if you've got like hundreds to thousands of data sets, this is not the best way to do it. So the best way to do this is using the function and then use a range. So I'm going to say equal sign because it's the beginning of a function operator. So equal sign, and I'm going to search for average this time. So just type in AV, and you can see that once you just start typing, you should get what you're looking for. So we want average. Now, I always like to also read this as well. You know, it says returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be numbers or names or arrays or references that contain numbers. So this works with numbers. The whole of the grammatical stuff is just saying is for you to get an average, it has to be a number, and it can either get you an average either through a referencing or actually through numbers, you know, and all that. So that's the whole story. It's just saying that. So I'm going to click on the average and then open my bracket, and then I'm going to take the average. So the best way to use this is using you know, the range. So I can then come in here. So you might ask, what if you talked about saying having to type this one by one if you've got hundreds, but why do I have to now then drag down? That's a very good question. So you could either do this, okay, select the D2, all right, come here and then put this semi dots. I keep forgetting what that means. Please forgive me on that. And then you go to wherever the last column, the last data is on the column, and we can see that it is column D and row 11. So you just come here and just say D11. And you can see that once I put D11, it highlights exactly what I want. If I just wanted to just only do the average from D to 5, it takes it only D to 5. And if I say D to 11, it takes it down to D to 11. And when I say enter, it gives me 33.1 as well. Okay. So the next thing we're also going to do now, we're going to work on counts. Let's say, for example, we want to count numbers. We want to count numbers. So let me just show you. So we want to count the numbers in a cell, in any cell that contains a number. Let's say, for example, I know that I've got 10 products. I think there should be 10 products. And I want to ensure that in those 10 products, I've also got 10 unit prices on it. Let's just say, for example, I just want to make sure that there's no missing blank. Every product name has got a unit price. This is one way to do it, but might not also be the very efficient way to do it. But if you've got a very small data set, or even a large one, you could obviously do it. It depends on obviously what you are trying to achieve. But it's just nice to understand this, so that when we start getting to deeper things in Excel and all that, these things, when we're using them, it will be very much easy, and you will just flow with it, like, yeah, I remember this and all that. Okay, so a count function is, it only counts numbers. Try to get to know the numbers. It doesn't add, it just counts the numbers in a cell range. So we're going to say use the count function. And then let's say I want to count the unit price to just ensure how many numbers are there. So I'm just going to do the cell range, and then it should give me 10. So what is telling me that in my unit price, I've got 10 cells containing product names. That's what it's actually saying. And if I want to count that manually, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Okay, so that is correct as well. Now we're going to use something we call COUNTIF. That's another function name we will be discussing as well. So I'm just going to say =, count, and then if you scroll down, you can see if. You can just click on it and then open your brackets. Now, COUNTIF, basically, it's me giving a condition statement. Okay, it's giving a conditional statement, maybe to say count if there is a particular stuff that I need that are here, and return that value, the number of values. Let me give you, for example, let's say I want to count the unit price. Okay, so I'm going to say the range. You can see it's actually for the range. I'm just going to put a range, and then give me any number that has got 10 in this unit price. I want to see if there are any numbers that have got 10. How many 10s are in my unit price? Okay, I just want to know. So once should I put a comma and you put 10, it gives me 2. So it tells me that in my range, I've got 2 different product names that has got the same unit price for 10. All right, so you can see we've got here as 10, and we also got here as well as 10. So just to repeat myself on this, so a COUNTIF is if you want to get it's an if statement if you want to obviously get a number of things in a particular cell range. Okay, so I'm just going to say =, to do that is COUNTIF. All right, and it says counts the number of cells within a range that meets a given condition. So wherever that meets my condition is that's what Excel would return back to me. So my cell range is obviously this. I want to obviously know how many of my unit prices have 10 unit price in it, that's got 10 as a unit price in it. So once I then do this, okay, and then I'm going to say give my criteria as 10. I'm going to close my brackets, and then it returns it as 2. So I just wanted to repeat that as well, for anyone there to obviously understand. Do not worry, you would have time to practice on this, and it's very easy as well. Now we're going to also look at the if statement. Okay, so it's also a function called the if statement. Let's say I want to say if 18 is greater than should I say, yeah, let's say if 39, if I've got anything above 0, I want Excel to return and say product is available. And if I don't have anything greater than 0, then I want Excel to tell me that this product is not available. So imagine if you've got like thousands of products, right? Or thousands of things you sell. And obviously you've got your data, you record these things. And you want to obviously know what are the products that I've got that are currently available in my, in my store or in a warehouse or something like that, This is one way you can obviously get to check that using an if statement. So it's a conditional statement. So I'm going to use the if statement and I'm going to say the equal sign is the beginning of every function. So if open brackets, now I'm going to put in my logical test. Okay. So what he's saying is put in your logical test using operators, either, greater than, less than, equals to, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to. You already know all those things. So that's a logical test. Okay. Now, if it's that, then so should be true. If it's not, so should be false. So that's just for me to understand, but I'm going to go through with you on that. So the first logical test I'm going to use, let's say, for example, I want to make use of this. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this here so that it would make more sense. So we're doing the if, but I'm going to do it here. So it would make more sense for you to see as well what I'm trying to do. So if, okay, if 39, all right. Now this is, I'm also relative referencing, okay, because I want to reference on this column and row cell, okay. I want to reference on D2, that's column D, row 2. So I'm telling Excel, if column D2, which is 39, as a relative reference, okay, if it is greater than 0, all right, if this is greater than 0, then the comma, is then. So I love to tell stories with data, all right? So I would, make it very easy for you to understand. So I'm telling Excel, if D2 39 is greater than 0, then the comma is then give me a true value. And I'm going to put that true value with a semicolon and say product is available. So I'm going to say product is available. Okay, and I'm going to hold it. So this is a string, so that you need to put it in semi-quotes, in a quotation mark, so that Excel would understand that this is exactly the return, what you want it to return back if it meets that condition statement. Okay, so it doesn't see it as also what will I call it, a function you're also giving to it, or an operator, or a logic test. Basically, that's the perfect word. Okay, so it sees it as a return value that you should, that it would be given back, and as a string. Okay, so if D2, which is if 39 is greater than 0, then let me know that product is available. If not, okay, I'll use the commas if not. So I like to tell it as a story. If not, say, if not, show me that, or tell me product not available. So I'm going to say not available. And I'm going to also put the double quotation mark, and I'm going to close my bracket, and I'm going to say enter. So remember, if you want to, so you can see it's come up. Remember, if you want to expand this, just double click on that. So you can see that it's saying, it has showed me that, 39 obviously is greater than 0. So the product is available, meaning that I do have products in the warehouse. Now, the autofill or flash, what you can obviously then do is you can either double click on this, or you can drag down and it comes in here, or you can just double click on this and it would autofill that for you as well, flash fill it for you. So now let me put a column and say available. Let me say product status. Okay, let me call it product status. All right, so I'm just gonna, yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna call this product status to know what products are available and what products are not available. So you can see this, if you look at this, 0, because D6, which is D column D row 6, which is 0, is not greater than 0. You get, so 0 greater than 0, it's not possible. So it's 0, and then it returned it as not available. So you can see that all the products are available. We've only got one product that is not available, which is Chef Anthony's Gumbo Mix. So I can now then say, okay, this is the product I need to focus on ordering back on our store. or something like that. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to show you on how to use an if statement. Now we're going to make use the next thing we're going to talk about is how to also use a VLOOKUP. Now it's very easy. There is nothing to worry about. Now VLOOKUP, you know, it looks at, you know, your data vertically. So it looks at it vertically like this, you know, this is vertically. So by column ways, you know, column vertical. So this is how it looks at the data. So it looks here and finds the value. If the value you're looking for is here, it returns it. If it's not, it checks here, it returns it. But I will explain that what it means. So let's say, for example, you can see that I have got a missing category name here. All right, there are different ways to obviously find that, but I want to use a VLOOKUP obviously to look for the category name that is here. Okay, now let's say I have a lookup table where obviously if you're running a business, you should have you know, a table that, you know, a data table obviously that you've got all your product name and what you've categorized them as. Okay, and all that. Let's say, for example, if you're working with a product order and sales order and all that. So obviously I've got where I do that, and all I just needed to do is just copy that. So if you've got on a different spreadsheet, if you're working in an organization, you've got on a different spreadsheet, all you just need to just copy that out, and you can just create a new sheet and then you paste that here, and then that becomes your lookup table. Okay, in case if you've got missing values, and it would help you get out exactly what you're looking for. So I've already got my lookup value here. Okay, all I now need to now then do is to write in a simple VLOOKUP formula. Very easy, but very essential, because every company would require that you should know how to write VLOOKUP, because you would need that in almost anything. Okay, it's very easy. Now all you now need to do is this. Now that I have my lookup table, I've got my lookup table, just put an equal sign, okay, which is a function, and I'm going to type in VLOOKUP, and you can see what it says. It says it looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table and then returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. Now, what it's trying to say basically is that it looks for the value here, all right, on the left. So whatever you're looking for, it starts looking for it for the left and returns whatever value that is here. It might be a bit confusing, but let me work on it and then it would make more sense. Okay, and it's something you don't obviously need to cram the VLOOKUP. If I already have that in my mind, but you don't obviously need to cram the formula. You can always, if you always need a VLOOKUP, you can always just check on Google or something, and that would be shown to you. But it's very easy obviously to grab. So VLOOKUP, I'm going to open my bracket, and I'm going to the first thing it says is lookup value. So Excel tries to kind of guide you on what exactly you should be doing when you're working on a function. Okay, now what value am I looking for? Now remember that on the category name is empty, right? So the category name is empty. Let me take this off. Remember that this is empty, all right? But I do know that the product name is aniseed syrup, right? And the category name is empty. So, but I want to fill it up. So I want the lookup VLOOKUP to help go to my lookup table, find out wherever product name that says aniseed syrup, I want you to look for it in that table and return the category name. Now let me just give you an example, obviously. So I'm going to go to my lookup. You can see that my product name, right? I've got aniseed syrup. Now it's categorized this as a beverage, but I don't have it here. Maybe it was missing by whoever that typed this. Yes, you could obviously say, why don't you just go here and then just copy that and come here and paste it? Fine and good. But now imagine if you've got like thousands of rows, because that's exactly what Excel is never really, if you're dealing with data, you don't get short data like this majority of the times, okay? It would take you ages to want to start looking through cell by cell and start knowing which one. Imagine if I have to scroll down and I start looking which cell is empty. That would take my time, okay? But if I use a VLOOKUP, that would, you know, sort out for me quickly. Now we understand that we have the product name in the lookup, and we are going to use lookup to find this product name and then return the value of category name. I'll go back again and then I'll put the VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP, and then the lookup value is this. Okay, so I want to say, I'm telling Excel, look at my on my lookup value, I want you to find aniseed syrup. Okay, because I want the category name. So I'm going to select the relative referencing. So you can see that almost in everything we are always doing relative referencing, but we're also going to talk about it a bit more, and also talk about what an absolute is. We've not talked about absolute, but right now this is what's called a relative referencing, because I'm telling Excel, I want you to actively relate on the cell I've just highlighted. Okay, so I'm going to say lookup value. So we have answered this question of lookup value. Okay, and you see, it tells you need to put a comma, right? So I'm going to put a comma there. Now it tells you that, okay, now that you've selected this, you need to obviously, for Excel to be able to get out what you're looking for, it has to search within an array, a range, okay, a table range or an array. Okay, so now this is where your lookup comes in. All right, so because you've got that in a lookup, remember I told you you could obviously have this list maybe in a different sheet, Excel spreadsheet that you guys do record. You keep your maybe on your master sheets, for example. All you just need, just copy that out and then come here, create a new column and put your lookup, and that's it. So I'm going to come in here. You see here, it highlights that I'm on the lookup sheet. You can see this has come up. So it's telling me that, oh, okay, go to B4, then go to your lookup sheet. And then all I'm going to now then do is, remember it says I need to do the table array. So I'm going to then highlight the table array where I think that should be. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight this, and then I'm going to put a comma as well. Now, you see, once I put a comma, it's bolds on the next thing I need to fill in. So which is the column index number. So it's telling me that where would Excel find the value it needs to return. So remember, the product name is aniseed syrup, and I want it to return, because I know that my category is empty. So I want it to return on the category name, which this is column 1, which stands at 1, and column B, which is 2. Okay, now I'm going to say 2. Now you might wonder, why am I not using B? If that's in VLOOKUP, it uses number. So you can see it refers as column index number. Obviously we know that A is 1, B is 2, but yeah, it doesn't recognize it as alphabets. In VLOOKUP it recognizes as numbers. So all I just did was, okay, this is 1 and this is 2, so I'm going to put 2, and I'm going to put my own comma. So imagine when I put a comma, all right, the boldness should go into the range lookup. So you can see. Now it asks me, do I want an exact match or do I want an approximate match? So I want an exact match. I'm just going to click on exact match. So you could either click on an exact match, okay, which is false. You could just type in 0. It would just give them that. Don't worry yourself on, oh, if it's an exact match, why should it be false? That is how Excel interprets its own data. Okay, and then all I just need to do is click on, just cover the bracket, close the bracket, and when I click on enter, you can see that it returns beverages for me. Now that empty space of aniseed has now been filled. So you can see that this is the formula that we wrote, and you can see if I want to check, so aniseed syrup, the category name is beverages. Aniseed syrup, the category name is beverage. So it helps you fill this in. So imagine if you've got like several things. Even if I want to fill all this, I can actually fill all this just using the VLOOKUP. Maybe I only have the product name, but I don't even have the category. You can fill all of this, and then you just double click on this. It would fill all done for you as well. Okay. When I then do this, I don't really like to leave my VLOOKUP here. You can see these ones are all text, and then this is a formula, so it's not really nice. So what you then need to do is just copy it, okay, and then go back to the same cell and then paste it as values. 1 2 3, paste it as values, okay, and then you can see that it takes up that formula and then brings you the right one. Okay, I hope VLOOKUP was very interesting. It's very interesting. It's really, really useful. It's something that obviously that you should play around with as well. Just practice on it and you'll be fine, okay? All right, so the next thing we're also going to be looking at as well would be the concatenate. Yes, let's say if concatenate is joining 2 different words together, okay? Now, let's say, for example, let's say, for example, I have got, let's come here, all right? So let's say I've got, this is first name, first name, and this is last name. Okay. But and then let's say this is John. Let's say this is Mark, and this is Sarah. All right. And let's say the last name. I don't know. Let's say John Kim. Let's say Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, let's just say Mark Zuck. And then Sarah, let's say let's say Thompson. Sarah Thompson. Okay. Now let's say, for example, I want to join these two names to become one, and then for it to become full name. All right. Maybe I just feel like there's just too many columns. Maybe I just feel like there's just too many columns, you know, first name, last name, this and that. I just want to bring the two names together to become one, John Kim, in one column. All right. Now, all I don't need to do is use the concatenate. So concatenate basically is just, forget the big grammar. It's just basically joining two different strings or text to become one and all that. It's a very simple formula as well to write. So all you need to do, functions to write, all you just need to do is the equal sign as well, and you just type in CON. So once you just start typing it, it brings out, you can see it joins several text strings to become one text string. All you're just trying to say is it joins several, you know, these are texts, and Excel obviously reads them as strings, and it joins these two to become one. So I'm just going to click on the concatenate and then open my brackets. It's asking you what text you want to. So I'm going to cell reference it and say this. And you see, it tells me that I need to put a comma. So I'm going to put a comma. And then it tells me what is your second text. So my second text is Kim. Now, before I put my second text, okay, I want space. If you don't want space, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. And then put this. And if you say enter, it brings exactly. That's what I mean. So it brings it as John Kim as on, but you see, it doesn't make sense because you could obviously sometimes maybe even read this as a name. So that's why I need a space, because, you know, I mean, Excel is not Word. It's not going to help you add a space. You just have to obviously tell it what to do. So it's more of like garbage in, garbage out, you know, whatever you give in is what Excel provides back for you. So I'm going to just take this off. All right. So I'm going to say concatenate, open my bracket, John, and then I'm going to put the comma there, space, and I'm going to put this. All right. What's it called? Is it double quotations? But I'm going to put 2. Now, what this would signify and tell Excel is that, oh, I want you to give me space in my formula, you know, in between the two names, or rather, I want you to, so B19, so you're telling Excel, when after John, give a little space and then Kim. All right. So after John, comma, then I'm going to put Kim. So it's saying John, give some space so that I will know that's the first name and then the last name. And I'm going to close my brackets. I'm going to say enter. So you can also see that it did not give a space. Now, I purposely did that because you only just put 2 apostrophe, but you did not give the space in between the 2 double quotations. Okay. So all you just need to do is, you know, I can just click on this formula bar instead of having to retype it again and just press space. Now, once I say enter, it gives me John Kim. So I basically intentionally did that just so that you don't, because I know that most of us might also put those double quotation and do not give a space, and I say, oh, this doesn't work. It's just because you did not input a space in between the quotation marks. And then this is also called you know, an autofill or flash fill. So instead of having to do the same thing, okay, instead of having to do the same thing, come here and put the same formula and all that, just drag down. So you can either double click on this, on the arrow. Let me go back. So you can either double click. Once this arrow comes in, just double click. It comes in like this. Or you can just drag down manually, depending on wherever that suits you. Okay, so you can see that it's giving me exactly what I'm looking for, right? So if I want, I can now decide to delete this too, because obviously I don't even need it. All right, now you can see that when I deleted it, it went with that. You know why? It happened because this is still showing formula, so it's still referencing this. So if I take this off, it goes with it. That's what's relative reference, because it's still referencing that cell there. All right. So now, because I don't want that to happen, but I need to take this, all you just need to do not worry, just come here, copy this, okay? Just copy this, come back to that same place, paste it as values as well. Remember, we did that, when we were doing the products is available. And then when you now then come here and then you delete this, this will remain, because now it doesn't have those formula. Now it's acting on its own. It's not acting on relating, referencing any particular cell. It's working on its own. Okay. So that's how to get that done on Concatenate. So I'm just going to clear this one off. All right, so there's one more thing or two more things I just want to show you on operators as well, which is the minimum value and the maximum value. So let's say, for example, I want to know what's the minimum value and what's the maximum value. So let's say, for example, maybe let's assume that, for example, this was total profits, okay? Let's say, or let's just say this were total profits, okay? This unit in stock. Let's just assume that this unit in stock was actually total profits, okay? So let me just put it here. I'll put this back and just say total profits, just so that it makes sense. All right. So let's say this is a total profits made for selling chai. All right. And I want to know the minimum profit that was made, so I can know which product had a minimum value of profit. Maybe, and it would help you, obviously, as a data analyst, you do this, it helps you obviously tell the business which product is doing well, which product is not even doing well, which one are even making higher profits, and which one are you actually making minimum profit and all that. And then it helps the business make a good decision in their business. All right. So it's just a very simple formula. Just put the equal sign, put the MIN, it brings you minimum as well. You can see it tells you it returns the smallest number in a set of values. So it has to be numbers. You only use this for numbers. All right. Open the bracket, and I'm going to use the range and specify that one from D2 to D11. And it brings me that the lowest number there is 0. And if you check, you can see that we actually got 0 here as the minimum value. So you can actually tell that you see Chef Anthony's Gourmet mix, you're not making money out of it. Maybe that's why the product itself is not even available in store, because maybe the business could have maybe seen that over time that this product doesn't really sell. Maybe people don't really like it, for example. I'm just giving an example. And maybe that's why they don't have that in store. And now if you want to know what product, obviously, that you got your total sales, and it will help you obviously get to know which products are people actually buying more for you, obviously, to get that profit. You can also use the maximum function. So you just the equal sign MEX, and it will bring that out. It returns the largest value as well. So you just open up your bracket, and then you will just highlight all of this and say enter. And you can see that it's 120. So if you look through, you can see the grandma's Bunsberry spread. Okay, I don't know what that is, but grandma Bunsberry spread seems to be the highest, 120, and even the product is available. So it tells the business that this product is really doing good. So that means you should obviously make sure you have this product in store, because you can actually make more profits. Because you can see, if you try to watch at this, you can see that there's a huge difference in the profit you make in this product compared to the rest as well. So it helps the businesses make good decisions with just the simple arithmetic operators that you can do here in Excel. Okay, so now that this has been said, now the next thing we're obviously going to do, I'm just going to clear this off, just so that we could actually have some space to do some other work. So the next thing we're going to do is sorting and filtering. That's another thing we're going to be doing here, sorting and filtering. All right, so what does that mean? Let's say, for example, I want to sort first of all, let me start with the filtering. All right, so filtering, obviously, for you to do the filtering, you just highlight the column. Okay, just when you click on the column, it takes it all down to the rows, so to the column, and highlight up to, let's say, up to here. So filtering, maybe you want to filter out a particular product, okay, and see and you know, you want to summarize. I like to say it's more of like giving a summary, a quick summary of a particular product and all that. So you want to see a particular product, so you can filter only that one out and take the rest out and see what products or products you would want to see at a time and not the full product as a whole. So once you highlight all the columns, just go to your data, click on filter, and you can see that once you click on this, you get this drop down coming here, and that's the filter. So remember, we're in home, you go to data, click on filter, and then this like a funnel or a drop down, you know, comes in here. Okay, so let's say, for example, I want to filter product name. Let's say I want to filter I want to take, deselect every other thing, and I want to filter yeah, let's say this grandma's Bunsberry spread. So I'm just going to click OK. So it gives me, it just summarizes. Just so imagine if I've got grandma's Bunsberry spread, several of it here, it would only filter grandma's Bunsberry spread. Okay, so I can obviously then see that, oh, okay, we've got, you know, the unique price for this is 25, total profit sold maybe 120, category, name, condiments, and things like that. Now, if I want to let's say chai, so you can see that chai has got 2 as well, so it helps me obviously. So this is basically what filtering is all about. Now, if you're done filtering and you want to obviously select all, so you can come here and then select all and then say okay, and then it returns everything back as well. So I'm just actually putting back the units in stock back there, the name back, units in stock. Remember, we changed it to profit. I'm just putting that back, you know, for the right purposes. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the sorting. Now, sorting basically is more of like you're trying to sort something, maybe based on A to Z, Z to A, alphabetical order, and things like that. Let's say, for example, I want to sort, let's say, which one should we use? Let's say I want to use product name, okay? So click on this, and I'm going to say maybe sort Z to A. It would sort it, so you can see U, you know, it takes it Z to if that's U, N, M, G, C, you know, and then the last is A. And if I want it to sort A to Z, it will sort everything from A, regardless of whatever the product ID here and all that stuff. So it will sort it according to however you want it to be. So one thing I will obviously say is when you're using sorting, you have to be very careful, so you don't obviously mess up a lot of things, because you can see, for example, if I wanted this to follow on the product ID, it has changed because yes, I want the product name to start from A, but you can see the product ID, instead of it starting from 1, it starts from 3. So you just have to, it's good, but you just need to know exactly at what point you get to use that, okay? And so you don't end up messing up your data. So I'm just going to say Ctrl Z, and it should return me back to the way it was. That is basically on sorting and filtering. Now we're going to move into checking duplicates, okay? Because one of the things as a data analyst, and you know, or you working with Excel, you obviously need to know is if you're being given a data set, you need to obviously check for some things. And one of the things you obviously check out for is the data you're given, does it have, does it contain duplicates? Okay, now there are 2 ways to obviously do this, but there's a faster way to do it. But I'm just going to show you how to do it the very first way. Okay, one way you can obviously do is you can check here and see, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all that. And then you come here to product name, you can see that it gives you unique values here, right? But it doesn't mean that how will I say it? It doesn't mean that they might not be duplicate, because it will only bring the unique value and then place it here, but they could be duplicates here, and I will show you. Remember that when we came to product ID, we only saw from 1 to 9, right? But we can see that we've got 1 here and we've got 1 here. But you see, this obviously just showed the unique. What I mean by unique value, meaning any value that is being distinct out. So it just, if you've got a value of 10 and all those 10 values, we only got 3 that were unique. Maybe we got 3, you know, in 2 places, 4 in 3 places, that made it 5, and then we got 7 in 5 places. So that means the unique numbers are 3, right? In 10 and all that. So it only just brings you the unique and all that. So if you look at this, when you just filter and you look down, you could be wrong and say, oh, everything seems fine, but it might not just be. So what obviously you just need to do is this. So to take off duplicate, just highlight. Now, this is one way you can obviously highlight everything, but imagine if you've got large data, that would be very, it will be a whole lot to do. Just click on where you want to start to highlight from. Click on Control, click on Shift. Now your Shift, in some keyboard, you get to see the Shift, written there. If you don't see the Shift, it's just the arrow key facing up above the Control button. So Control, Shift, right, and it will take you to the last data and all that, and then down, and it will highlight to the last data down. So now that you've then done this, I'm going to now then say remove duplicates. Okay, now what this means is, if for example, if there were a particular column you'd want just to remove a duplicate for, you can then unselect all and then just choose that column you want. But in this case, basically I want to obviously select all, because I wouldn't know, obviously it's best to select all so that it looks through, because what are duplicate meaning that a particular number or a particular name are repeating itself. Let's say for example, you can see that 1 chai 1839 beverages product is available. We have the same thing repeated here. 1 chai 1839. This is a duplicate, obviously, and all that. So we obviously know that we need to take that out. And for you to do that, it has to look through all the other columns and see if the same thing is repeating. If this is chai, okay, if this is chai and then here is 20 and here is 19, beverages is same, products available is same, for example, it would not appear as a duplicate because it's not same thing all throughout the rows. Okay, so all I need to now then do is click on OK. It now then tells me that 1 duplicate value was found and removed. Now I only have 9 unique value remain. You can see that I actually had that one down here before 9, but now that I've done the duplicate, it's taking that off and all that. So this makes your work really nice. You don't have to worry about, so that you don't end up reporting wrong data. Okay, so it's a very key thing as either as a data analyst or as a person who uses Excel to perform your work. Okay, so another thing obviously you might also want to is spelling errors. Now on the filtering down, if we come down to category name, we can see that, for example, I can see that if I want to, obviously, if my boss, for example, want to say, okay, I would like to see the category of beverages because I want to see everything on that beverages and know how many stock we have got. Now I can decide to select all, and if I say beverages, all right, it only gives me 1, but I know that there are more. But because of it could be typo errors, so if I want to clear back, I can just clear filter and it will return back everything. But I know that there are more, because you can see this one is beverage, E and S was missing. This is how it was being spelled. So this might be a typo error in data entry. These things occur. Okay, and you can see another one again, produce. So instead of produce, it says produce. These are errors. So I need to fix these things. So now that I have been able to spot it down through the filter, and see, that's one of the good things with the filter, it helps you see these things clearly. Now, once I've now spotted that I need to change 2 things, now this is what I would do. What I like to do is I will look for the right spelling, okay, and I'll just copy that. Now there is a shortcut key to obviously do this. Just press Control and then press H, okay. So I'm going to say find. Okay, let me start from this. Find the wrong. I'm going to copy the wrong spelling, all right. And I'm going to say, it's asking you, what do you want to find? I want you to find the wrong spelling. So so you can either type it or you just copy and paste it there. But just because I don't want to type a wrong thing, so I'm just copying that. So I'm going to say, find this, and I want you to replace it with the right spelling, okay? And replace with the right spelling. Now, what it's going to do, imagine if we've got the same mistake made in several rows or in this particular column, what it would do is it would change every single thing immediately as well. So, and I'm going to say replace all. So it's now told you that it says, oh, I have done 3 replacements and all that, and it has changed whatever that has been done. Now I can also see that here I've got beverages and I'm getting this. So I want to change this as well because that's not giving me the right one, and I want to change it to beverages, and I'm going to say replace, and I can see that there's another one here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that. Now you can see that, you know, because some of them have got space, some of them have not got space, so it's, you know, bringing, you know, different things, and I'm going to say replace, and it should fix that as well for me. Now I can see that my produce, I've got a wrong produce spelling there, so I'm going to replace the produce as well. So I'm going to say paste and then copy the right spelling of the produce, or you can just type it in, copy paste, and then say replace, and it would also get that for me as well. Okay, now that you have gone through and you can now see that everything now is right, beverages, condiments, and produce are all right with no spelling error. That now that you are almost getting done with your data cleaning. So these are part of data cleaning that you do in a data as well. In our later module, we will take our time and pick a, you know, an unclean data and totally clean it from scratch. But these are just little examples so that when we are also going into that, it would make a lot of sense. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is trimming, on how to trim. Okay, so we can see that here it's starting from here, from the left without any space. You can see that we've got some space here and all that stuff. Now you don't want this, you don't want to have your data all like this, and you know, some have got space, and it's, imagine if this was like this. Just imagine if this was like this, and imagine if this was like, just imagine, you know, the data. It happens. Sometimes you could get your data and you find it just like this and all that. It could be data entry, it could be different reasons and all that. So what I'm going to do, remember we learned on how to insert a new column, right? So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to right click and insert, because I want the column to be here, right? And then I'm going to put a formula called trim, the trim formula. Now what trim means, you know, what trim is like you're trying to like take out something off, right? So I'm trying to trim off the spaces. I don't want all the spaces in here and here and here. It's making my work, my data very unclean and not very presentable. So remember, when you're using a function, you always have to use the equal sign. Okay, so equal sign and then trim. And then if you read, say it removes all spaces from a text string except for single spaces between words. Okay, so we're going to say trim, and I'm going to highlight this as the cell array, and then I'm going to say enter. Now you can see that it has trimmed that space off, and it has brought that here. So I can just double click on that and it would all come here. So you can see now it looks much better. But remember, I told you one thing you need to understand is whenever you use a formula, it depends on the cases anyway. So don't have to do this for every formula you use. It depends on the case itself. But I don't want my formula obviously to be showing here and all that. So all I just need to do is just copy and then come back here as well and then paste it as well, and the formula is gone. So I can decide to just delete this one because it's not nice, and maybe just copy this and then just paste it here, and maybe I can then decide to delete this one as well, delete the column. Okay, what happened here? Okay, let me delete it. I'm gonna just delete all this. Okay, so now you can see that I do not have any formula here anymore. Okay, all right, now that we're then done with that, we'll go into data validation. Okay. That's another thing we're going to learn in this course, data validation. But before then, I would like to teach you on how to hide in columns. If you want to hide columns, let's say, for example, you want to hide in some columns, maybe you just feel like, okay, you can see, I am here. All right. And I just want to see just the product name and what is available. I don't want to be seeing all this because I have to scroll to product name and then I have to use the scroll bar and scroll down. It's, maybe it's a whole lot for me. All right. So I spelled this wrongly. I just saw this now. Products is available. So I just saw this now. So I'm just going to redo the formula here so that I spelled it wrongly. Okay. So what I'm going to then do is, because I don't want to keep navigating and going through the scroll bar left and right and just keep checking. And imagine if you got like hundreds and all that stuff, and then you have to be, if you check a product name, you have to then come here, and then that would take a whole lot. Sorry, I need to also take this one off. I spelled, how come did I spell all this wrongly? Please pardon me for that. So these are the things that happen in product entry. So no one is, no one is above these things. It can happen to anyone, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight, because I want to hide these 3 columns. I'll just highlight the 3 columns I want to hide. Okay. So you just highlight the 3 columns. You're going to right click and you're going to say hide. So now that you've done that, it's not easy for me to see and say, oh, Chai, oh, product is available. Oh, Chef Anthony, oh, it's not available. So it's very easy and all that. It makes your work, and all that. And then once you're done with that, or maybe you even hide it off from, a lot of people from even seeing that, you can have it to just do that. And then when someone comes to your page, they only just get to see this. They don't even get to see the other columns. Remember in our first module, we talked about how to hide in sheets, okay, and unhide. So you can also do that here in rows. You can also hide rows as well. So you just highlight, and if I say hide, it would hide that as well. So one way it shows you that a column is hidden, all right, it gives you these 2 double parallel lines here. You can see it here as well. You can also see it here as well. So it lets you understand that something is hidden. And you can see I also hid something here too as well. So it also shows you, that's one way you can always figure out. So you don't say, oh, I've hidden, how do I get to know how I'm going to hide it? Always look out for that 2 double parallel lines, and you can obviously do that. All you now need to do is, it tells you that, oh, highlight this to where the parallel line ends. Okay, right click as well, and then say unhide, and everything would come out. And I'm going to do this to where the second parallel end, and I'm going to say unhide, and every other thing would also come out as well. I'm also going to do this one as well. Right click and unhide. Okay. So we're going to go into data validation. All right. Now let's say, for example, I want to impute the data. All right. And then I want to impute the data. Let's use this, for example. All right. Okay. So I think I already, let me just copy this down. All right. Just for you to understand. Now let's say, for example, chai. We already know it's a product name, and I want to select the category. Maybe there's something I'm feeling. Maybe you could be filling up something, and instead of having to, be typing, it's one way of data validation is that it helps to take a lot of errors. So it's like giving a set of condition that has to be met, if you want it to work and all that. So one of the ways you can eliminate these errors, imagine if these category names, right? Like, remember when we had to do a VLOOKUP to put up one of these category name. Now imagine if I had already done a data validation here, whereby I can just click on this and I will get a list drop down, and then I could just select the right category, and then it would make things much easier as well, right? Okay, so that's what I'm going to then do here. So I'm just playing along with this just for you to basically understand. How come my specs products so wrong like this? Okay. All right. what I would then do, the first one I'm going to then do now is list. Okay. Now I'm going to, for you to get to the list, imagine if you're in the home, all you need to do is click on the cell where you'd want to do your data validation. Click on your data tab and you can see data validation here. So I'm going to click on this, click on data validation. Now, we will be touching about the input error, the input message, and all that. Nothing to worry about. Then I'm going to say, I'll click on this drop down and I'm going to say list. All right. Now, before now, I had already created, let me cancel this first. So before now on my lookup table. So it's always good as, you know, a data analyst or an Excel user to always have, if you know you're going to have things like this, just dedicate a spreadsheet. Okay, sorry, dedicate a sheet rather, where you have all your lookup values, like the master sheet of everything. You know, I put everything in your lookup as well, so that it's easier to just, you know, go there and pick up what you're looking for. So because I want to create, I've seen that the unique numbers, the unique category names, okay, there are only 3: beverages, condiments, and produce. All right. So when I figured that out, what I did was put them here: beverages, condiments, and produce. So there is a formula, unique function. You can obviously use that to select out what do you call it, unique values in a given range. Okay, it's very easy to use as well. So when I then did that and I put that here, so all I now need to do now is to do this. So now this is the cell I want to have those drop downs. Okay, and then I'm going to go to, remember, you go to your data tab, you go to your data validation, click on data validation. On the drop down, you click on list. Okay, now it's going to ask you, you can see here is grayed out, meaning you can't obviously do anything and all that. So on the source, it's going to ask you, okay, so where would you want me to get the list so that you can actually, you know, have those drop down? So the source is going to take you. So I'm going to take this to where the source is. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go to my lookup. As you can see, it's picked up the lookup sheet's name and I'm going to pick it from here to here. All right. So I'm telling Excel, look up on this and return these 3 things to become a list in that particular cell, so that when I click on it, it will come in as a drop down and I can just quickly just select what category name that product name falls. And I'm going to say enter and it comes here. I'm just going to say, okay. So you can see once you've then done that, it brings you this drop down. And then I could say, oh, chai. Oh, okay. Chai falls under, maybe I already know where it falls under. It falls under beverages. Oh, you know, oh, it falls under produce. You can also do that. And if you also want to do chef as well, you also do the same cells. So you data validate each of them and all that. Now, I'm also going to, instead of using list for everything, I'm also going to also teach you on how to also do whole numbers, okay, on this cell. So if you want to like put whole numbers and maybe Chef Anthony mix, okay, I want to know the number of stock that is left. It should be a whole number. Oh, we've got 1 left, we've got 2 left. You can't say we've got 2.2 left. You get what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Okay, so I want to know the number of number of stock that is left, and that could be something that we could also put in here. All right, so you need stock. You can see they are all whole numbers, right? So that if I can't put 39.2, that's a decimal. It doesn't make any sense, and that would mess up a lot of things. So if I put a data validation here, if someone puts maybe 39.2, when I have data validated that cell as a whole number cell, it will give an error. All right, and it would help the data whoever, you know, whether the data entry specialist or a data analyst, to understand, oh, this is actually a whole number. It's just reawakens you on like, oh, this is a whole number and all that, and it avoids you making mistakes. So I'm going to come here now and then I'm going to go to data validation and I'm going to click on whole number. Now I could either decide to, you know, so you can play along with all of this. Okay, all right, just play along with all. That's the best way to learn. I'm going to use between. So I'm going to say, okay, between, let's say 0 to, let's say, 100. All right. So whatever number you should give me should fall between 0 to 100. Now, like I said, when you play around with this, it depends on whatever you're trying to do. You can use anyone you're trying to use as well. So 0 to 100, I'm going to click on OK. Now, if I put in 0 and I say enter, that's correct, right? Because it's a whole number and it falls within that range. Now, if I put in a decimal, remember I put this data validated this cell as a whole number cell. If I put in a decimal, let's say 22.9, it will say this value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. So you see, if I was a data entry specialist or as a data analyst that I am, it reallocates like, oh, okay, I think there's something I'm doing wrong, and I could also correct that. Now, if I've given for this particular one, I gave a restriction between, let's say, between 0 to 100. If I put 200, it should also tell me it's wrong as well. So that is one way you could also do that. So you can obviously have a hand on, play along with this. They are it's just very easy something. Decimal is the same approach if you do a whole number as well. We've also done this. You can play along with this. They are very easy to learn and understand. You can also decide to put in an input an error message. Let's say I want to put an error message saying wrong, let's say wrong value, please impute a whole number. Okay, I'm just going to say okay. So it gives, if I put in 2.2, it already tells me right here that wrong value. So it gives me an idea. So when I see it, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But when I see it, I say, oh, okay, it's a wrong number. I need to put in a whole number. It helps me to obviously understand what I am doing as well. So yeah, you can also play along. Data validation is very good to ensure that your data, in Excel, especially things you want to validate, you can minimize errors from that as well. Okay, so another thing we're going to then talk about here will be conditional formatting. Okay, now let's say conditional formatting it's just a way of having to make more meaningful insights in your data. All right, so now, for example, I could decide to, okay, let me take this one off. Okay, let's say, for example, I want to make this product name, I want to color that. So I can come to my condition formatting. All right, this is my conditional formatting area. So this for styles. Let's start with the styles first of all. And I can decide to just change colors. Okay, decide to change color to green here, and then it will change all this to green. So that's one thing you should know here. Format as a table, we've already talked about it as well when we worked on this. Okay, that's another place you can go to format your table. So you can either click here or you can just say Ctrl+T, and that would obviously do the same thing for you. Now, conditional formatting. Now we're going to apply, let's say, for example, we want to see the top 10. All right. So if I want to see the top 10, all I need to obviously then do is maybe I want to see the top 10 units price. Okay. You just select all the column, and then you come to conditional formatting, and then you say top 10. So it asks you to specify top 10 in what, what number, should let's say top 10. Okay, let me say let's say 5. Top 5. Okay, give me the top 5 in this, and I want you to color it in red. You can say color it, green or whatever, and it helps you make good so if, for example, you can present to your boss, oh, the unit price, these are the highest unit price that we've got for each product, easily, instead of having to say, oh, which one is greater. It highlights everything for you. So these are the things you can do with conditional formatting. So you can quickly see that, oh, chef, the highest so far sorry about that, the highest is 97, which is nickel and this and that. So it helps you obviously analyze data quickly. So you can just play around with this conditional formatting, very easy. So we talked about, so you can check the bottom 10. So if you want to check the bottom, let's check the bottom two, and I want to fill that with red. So the bottom two, obviously, it's already saying that this is the bottom two for, you know, it already highlighted one for it as well. Sorry about that. Now, if I also want to get to do the bottom two, rather, conditional formatting, and I'm going to say bottom. So remember, you have to, I selected the cell, so you only, you know, would work on that cell. So it's what, like I said, Excel is what you give in is what it receives. So I'm going to say back on that column as well, and conditional formatting, top 10, and I'm going to say I want the bottom two. Give me the bottom two only. And you see, it gives you the bottom two, which is correct. So the 5 are green, bottom two, 5 highest are green, and the bottom two is 10. So these are ways you can obviously make meaningful insights in your data. So just play along with this. It's very, you know, very easy to understand. If you want to know how many things are, let's say, greater than your unit stock, you want to know things that are greater than, let's say, 40. Okay, it will highlight that, okay, we've got product that are greater than 40. If you want to know like number of stock that are greater than a particular, maybe you've got shelves, right? And each of those shelves has a number that maybe it has a number of 40 that it can contain. I'm just assuming and all that. And then you want to know if which of the product that have you got in stock that are above 40 or less than 40 and all that. So this can help you make meaningful insights to play around with. So you can obviously, we've done the greater than, you can do the less, you can do the between, you can do color scales, and, you know, color scales are just, you know, giving different color scales on the cell. You can also work on, another one we'll talk about is icon sets. All right, so let's highlight this, and conditional formatting, icon set. So it's just, if you select directional, it comes. If you select by, you know, circles, so based on the value. So you can see green. If I select this, see green because it gives you that 120 is green, and, you know, because it's higher and things like that. And then it puts this based on the formatting and all that this could be on a lower side compared to this, and this is quite fair because it's quite average. So Excel tries to you know, help you make meaningful insights. So these are things you can use. You could also do data bars. Let's do a data bar. Let's use this column, and you click on, so you highlight the column, click on conditional formatting, and we'll click on data bar. And so once you do this, you know, you can see 97 is almost, you know, is almost down to 100. This is 40, this is 10, this is, so you could use this to make meaningful insights and make it much more presentable to you know, deliver, you know, these presentations to your bosses or even to yourself, you know, and all that. Okay, so you can play along with the conditional formatting. It's very easy to understand. Just play. That's the best way to learn. Just play and say, oh, what does this really do? And it will show there's no harm in trying and all that. Okay, now that being said, we, you know, talked about absolute and relative referencing. Now we've been doing a lot of relative referencing, so I just want to just throw a bit on this. Now, relative referencing, it relates, it tells, so if I'm saying equal sign and I'm saying D5, all right, so I want to say D5 multiply by C5. So I'm saying 53 multiplied by C5. So instead of using the actual words 53 multiplied by 22 to get the right figure, I could use a relative referencing on cell. That's relative cell referencing, meaning that I could active reference on this cell, meaning that I am pointing at this cell and I'm saying Excel, this cell number, okay, I want you to multiply it with this cell number, and it gives me my figure, and it's very much accurate. I could also use that to generate all that stuff as well. So once I then do that, it gives me exactly what I'm looking for. Now, I will give an example on what we can do with relative, absolute and relative. Now let's create an example, a proper example. Now I'm going to insert a new column, okay, and let's call this maybe let's say total profits. Okay, let's just call it total profits. All right, And then I'm going to, obviously I want the unit price and unit stock. Let's just call it, imagine if all this was sold, all right? Imagine all this stock was sold and this is the price it was being sold for. And I just want to get the total profit. This is just make calculations to be able to help us, do absolute and relative referencing together. Now, we're going to start with relative referencing. This is what relative referencing does. So instead of having to say 39 multiply by 18. Now, instead of having to do this, okay, if I want to do this and all that, it gives me the same. If I want to drag down like autofill and all that, it gives me the same number. It just replicates that because it's not referencing to any cell. Okay, you can see it's not referencing to any cell. If I highlight it, it's just referencing on E. It's not referencing to any cell particularly. Now, if I do a relative referencing, now this is what happens, and I say C2 multiplied by D2. Okay, so you can see that it's highlighting, it's referencing the cell of this and the cell of that. And when I do this, it gives me 702 as well. And this is what is relative referencing, as simple as that. Now, I told you that you could do things like this and then you could do a drag down. Now, this might not totally be correct. Okay, let me just do a drag down. This might sometimes not be correct. 19 times 17. Sometimes it might not be correct because especially if you've got maybe, for example, now because you're referencing on a particular you're referencing, there is a data here and there is a data here. It gives you the right figure, right? You can reference, you can do you can just do a relative referencing and it gives you, and then do a drag down and it gives you that. Now the reason it gives you that is because once you drag down, this cursor moves to the next. It reference this, it gives you the figure. If you check this as well, it reference this, it references, it gives you the figure. Now imagine if I want to, now let's insert another column and then call it tax. Okay, and let's say the tax is 20%. Let's just use 20% for example. All right, and I want to then get to know the actual after tax, what's my actual profit. Okay, so after tax, what's my actual profit? Now let me put this as actual profit. All right, now this is what's going to happen. I'm going to try and do the same thing that I did here and let's see if it's going to work. Okay, now this is this, which I know it wouldn't. So now this, let's say divided, right, by this. This is just for you to understand what I'm trying to say. Now if I try to drag down, you see it gives me error. The reason is because you see when I click on this, there is a value here, right, and there's a value here, right, and that's why it gave me an answer. If I click this, you see there's a value, there's no value, so it's not giving me an answer. So that means the relative can't work here. The relative would work if you're trying to multiply, add, or subtract two values. You must have those values that you're trying to do all filled in here as well and all that. So you see it's not giving me it's giving me a div error. Div error, this is more of like an error and all that, and it's empty. Basically zero, it's empty and all that. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to multiply this by this, this by this, this by this, meaning that this column E, the cell can be relative. That means it can be moving. Okay, I want this to be moving, but I want this to be fixed. Now when it's being fixed, absolute is when you're trying to fix a particular cell on something, like you're saying this cell should be fixed. That's called absolute reference. That's how I like to paint it so that it makes more sense for anyone to understand. Now let me try and give an example on that. Now I'm going to say this, okay, divided by this. All right, now I already know that if I drag this down, it would give me div, right? So what I'm going to now then do is I'm going to say, because I want this to be moving, I want this to be moving, right? To be going down. But I want it to be, when it goes down, I want it to multiply with this. And that's why I'm making this one my absolute referencing. That means my fixed referencing, okay? To my fixed reference cell. I don't know if that, I hope that would be much clearer and all that. So this is what I'm going to then do. I'm going to then say, okay, this is my E2. Okay, my E2. I want that to keep moving. When it goes to E3, I want it to keep moving to E3 divided by F2, E4 divided by F2, E5 divided by F2. All right, so I'm not going to put any formula there. Now I'm going to put a dollar sign. Now, for you to fix a particular cell and make it absolute, you put a dollar sign. So I'm going to put a dollar sign now. So I'm going to put a dollar sign because I want to fix the F column. All right, I want to fix this F column. And I also just don't want to just fix it. Even the row, I want to also fix the row. So I have fixed the dollar sign. Mean that's the sign used to fix to make something magnet. Okay, so I have fixed the column for F. But if I don't do that, it would not give me the right thing, because I need to, it would keep moving down, and I need to also fix the row. So, you know, this is F, and then this is row 2. So I'm also going to put a dollar sign 2 in row 2 as well. So now when I press this as well, and I then try to fill this down, you can see that it's filled up, or let me just do this, drag down. You can see that it has now properly filled in correctly and all that. So it's not giving us those errors because of, I have made this a relative referencing to a part to the cell to keep moving and changing, but I've made this one to be fixed. So you can see when I click this, it moves down, it multiplies by this. If I move to the next one, E4, it moves down because that's relative multiplied by the absolutes that has been fixed. And that is how, that's basically absolute and relative referencing. You could obviously take off, okay, let me do this. So at different circumstances or whatever, so whatever you're trying to actually achieve using relative and absolute, especially absolutes and all that, it depends on what you're trying to achieve and all that. You can decide to either take off this and you get this, but it would work in different way. It might not give you the correct answer because it's different. Right? The reason is because when you don't fix this as well with the absolute dollar sign, it would come down. Yes, you have fixed the column, but it's not enough. You need to also fix, because it's column name and then row name that gives a cell address. That's the complete address. Okay, it's just like you're living in an area, the number and the street's name and all that, so that someone can easily locate you and all that stuff. So that's why this is not working. So I have to come back here and then put this dollar sign. So for you to put a dollar sign, depending on you could use Shift and then you press 4. Some keyboards are just F4. So it depends on wherever you see your dollar sign. You can then do that there. So I'm just gonna put this here, dollar sign, and I'm going to just redrag this down to, you know, fix the error, and that is it. So this is everything we will be discussing in module 2. Just to do a recap on what we have discussed so far. I hope this was very self-explanatory and you were able to understand everything we shared in here. So what we discussed was how to, you know, for data entry, how to put in a data, you know, insert a new column, new row, even delete. We also talked about what are tables. We talked about cell ranges, which we obviously use them differently in our arithmetical operators, even in our VLOOKUPs and all that. We also performed some mathematical or arithmetical operations such as sum. We talked about average, COUNTIF, you know, the if statement, the VLOOKUP, concatenating two different texts to become one, and also finding the minimum and maximum value. We also looked in at our data set to sort out and also filter data. We also checked on duplicates, spelling errors as well. We also talked about data validation, where we talked about, you know, giving a particular cell, a particular cell, and then validating it either to be a whole number or a decimal or even a list. We also talked about also giving some more additional data validation by imputing error messages that comes with it. And we also talked about conditional formatting to make informed, good decisions and make your reports much meaningful. And then lastly, but not the least, we talked about absolute and relative referencing. All right, this brings us to the end of the module 2. We will be talking a whole lot, a very much interesting topic in module 3 in our next lesson. I'll see you soon. See you in the next lesson.